Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Tuesday, June 10th, 2014. And this is Day 9 Daily number 715, probably? Where we're going to learn to be a better gamer from God himself, Flash, who has been performing so stunningly in Pro League, has not really had the opportunity in individual tournaments to showcase his skill until recently at the ShoutCraft SanDisk Invitational tournament, where he did some work. He did a little bit of work. I believe all those videos are over at twitch.tv/TotalBiscuit or on youtube.com/TotalBiscuit, I hope. youtube.com/CynicalBrit. I don't know. Google SanDisk ShoutCraft Invitational. Google, as we know, is smarter than all of us combined. What we're going to talk about today is the notion of the ball. How to make the most of initiative when it's yours. Before we do that, I want to just note that tomorrow I'm going to play an arena run in the Hearthstone. Thursday, regular StarCraft show. Friday, regular day off show. Fun Day Mondays up on the website, where you have to tell everybody what you're doing in your game of StarCraft. You must announce everything that you do for next Fun Day Monday while you're playing against your opponent, except you may lie once. Just one time. Just one time. There's a little restriction. That'll be up on day9.tv. Ooh. Another exciting news, it's like 100 degrees. More literally, it's like 86 or 87 in this apartment right now. There is no air conditioning. I think that's 30 degrees centigrade. So the important thing is that you need to pity my sweaty body. Or you can admire it. You get to make the choice. The choice is yours, and yours alone, on Day 9 Daily 715. I'm drinking from a bowl of water casually, like that's a thing that you do. Okay. I want to talk about balls. Not the act of having balls, a demonstration of courage in modern vernacular. Not a physical ball, but the mental notion of the ball in the game of soccer. I'm sure you all watch soccer and like it. In the entire world, it's called football, but in America, it has its own word, soccer. And I'm sure you'll see this happen where there's that exchange of possession and the team that just had it suddenly flocks very quickly back, and the team that now has the ball, who is on offense, has that initiative to be able to step forward. And they're sort of controlling the pace of the game. And that continues until the possession switches. And in StarCraft, this same concept we see happen in all matchups, where one player will have initiative and be allowed to move out, and one player kind of has to stay back and hold back on defenses. What would be probably the, I'm actually going to go to Brood War, even though this is a StarCraft 2 show, because the notion of the ball, of initiative, is so important in the Terran versus Zerg matchup, where at the start of the game, before medics, Zerg has the ball. Zerg can move speed Zerglings around the map, and there's nothing that Terran can really do. Till Terran gets medics and fire bats, and that Terran player moves across the map. And now the Terran player has the ball. He has that opportunity. And then the Zerg player gets Mutalisks out, and that army has to retreat back home to make sure it can defend the main. And the Zerg can wall in with lurkers, and now the Terran player can't move out. Can't do anything. Zerg has the ball. Zerg has map control until the Terran gets detection to be able to begin to push back those lurkers with siege tanks and science vessels and what have you. And this exchange of balls dictates when a player has an opportunity to do stuff, and also the mindset that the player should have throughout the game. This is a little bit less apparent in many of StarCraft 2's matchups, because units and battles tend to kill each other so quickly, and battles tend to be over so quickly that it's just sort of, it's very brief, the moments of violence, as opposed to a little bit more drawn out. But in this Terran vs. Terran today, we're going to get the chance to see Flash do a beautiful demonstration of how to exploit when he has the ball, how to plan for when he will have it next. And I want to use the term ball because it's more or less initiative, but initiative's like something you see in a fucking pamphlet or a job interview, like, we would like a candidate with initiative to be able to create initiatives. You'll remember ball a lot more easily because I'm a 27-year-old man and I find it funny. There you go. There it is. So we're going to watch this game. We're going to watch 2 other games. In this game, we'll see lots of back and forthing. And then we'll see some swifter games from Flash. We'll see that positioning come forth. Oh yeah, and you know, I love these analogies that are popping up in chat, like Red Baron talking about the idea of taking the ball away, what to do with the ball when you have it, how to seize that control and seize that opportunity. We're going to see a lot in terms of positioning, production, structures, and all that goody goodness. Let's go through the basics. We're playing on, is this map called, I don't remember the name of this map. All I remember is that it has the word boxer in it, and I always think of the player Slayer's Boxer. So in my head, I reserve this to be the Slayer's Boxer map. So great. Now, in terms of this model that we've already created, we can very cleanly say that no one really has the ball. This is the game of soccer where everyone's running around on the field, and the referee hasn't given them anything to play with yet. I know the analogy doesn't work in every circumstance. Just fucking listen to what I'm saying, okay? No one really has the ability to be an initiator, the ability to threaten, the ability to put anyone on the defensive. Outboxer, that's right. I always want to call it old boxer, but I know that's wrong. Now, in this build order that Flash is using, he gets a delayed refinery on 15. He can afford it on 13, but he elects to do no such thing, so he can thusly get a really nice timing on his expansion and his factory. Similarly, we see exactly why these players are scouting at this point in time, because they get to see, are you getting an add-on, are you getting a Marine, or are you getting a Reaper? And of course, Flash properly identifies that. Nothing to do with the broad concept that we're going to delight ourselves in focusing on, but something very, very neat and clean and fancy nonetheless. So we see Flash, ooh, with this reactor coming up. 2 Marines, a very just right amount. We'll move it up. What I will, you know, I've been saying that we're going to see the way that these players use initiative throughout, but I want to be very specific about 2 things. The first thing, very concretely, what I like that Flash does, is that when he has initiative, he goes crazy. He goes insane with all the bold steps. He will put an expansion on the low ground earlier than other players would. That's pretty brave. He is deeply aware of the safety that you have when you have the ball. So he does that. That's the first thing. Oh crap, what was the second thing? God, I was going to sound so intelligent there for a moment. We're actually going to stop and sit. We're talking about the 2 great things that Flash does with the ball. I don't know. I don't know. What was the second one? We're talking about the use of the ball? I don't know. It's 87 degrees on the thermostat. Wonderful. I am in hell. See, look at that. Easy deflection onto the heat. Oh, of course. Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Great. 2 important things about the ball. 1, Flash uses a lot of opportunity during the phases when he has the ball. To take expansions early, boldly, on the middle of the map, to throw down production structures, to get add-ons on his factories, so he's building no units. The second important thing, I think perhaps the most important takeaway for any of you today, is that Flash is looking for opportunities when he has the ball, not trying to force opportunities when he has the ball. And I think it's really important to note. We see fancy drops and Hellions killing off SCVs and stuff like that, and we all dream of the day when we can do that Gosu play. But you don't need to make it happen, really, ever. This is why I chose this as the first game, because this is a fairly long game where Flash has initiative, Bbyong has initiative. They trade back and forth. And Flash is setting up an opportunity in each of these moments, but not trying to force it to pan out. So we see pretty normal things, this command center going on the low ground. That's just a matter of the fact that these two Marines had safely defended it. We see some early Hellions coming up and a starport. Now, right away, this is an example of concretely taking the initiative. Technically, Flash could have built a reactor, or excuse me, left the reactor on the barracks, built siege tanks from this factory, built Vikings here, and stayed very passively. But you don't have any initiative when you do that. Certainly not in the immediate future. If you have a tank or 2 tanks and 12 Marines, I guess you can make an attack when you have 4 tanks and 20 Marines, I guess. But does that feel good? Does that feel reliable? It can be very dicey in a number of those situations. So Flash is opening up with a very stereotypic Hellion with blue flame build, moving these Hellions out. And right off the bat, we're going to see some super interesting moves from Flash. There's the scan. Flash's Hellions are moving up. No one's really claimed the initiative yet, but Flash is starting to with exactly this. Now, in the deference to that previous statement, should Flash be up against Bbyong doing the exact same thing? If Bbyong had a factory and was going for blue flame and Flash detected it, no need to force the opportunity. You simply wait until a future time. But here is the first time where we will see the opportunity take hold. Hellions get ready, rallied into the main base. Notice the delicious passiveness with which Flash sits and waits. Does he have initiative? Well, only when he is certain that he has the Hellion lead. This is very subtle but very important. He rallied into his main until he was certain he would have the Hellion lead, until he was certain that he would actually have that initiative, and now he's going to spring forth into action. He's going to be trying to do a defense. It's somewhat of an awkward, thin defense. We could talk about Bbyong's initiative, but I'm going to just focus on Flash this entire game so we can see Flash lost that opportunity to do the big move out. We also see the benefit that Flash has gained from doing this build. He had enough Hellions to hold off that kind of attack. All that's yada yada yada. And now for the first time, Flash is actually going to have initiative. He not only is near certain that he has the Hellion lead, because he just killed off some Hellions and he has some good ol' 2-factory production, but also he's going to have blue flame now, just now. This is where, if I'm Flash, I'm like, alright, I got the initiative. Notice that right as blue flame finished, oops, this SCV is moving out to go build the factory on the low ground. Literally the second that this initiative kicked in and Flash had seized control of the ability to move out on the map, does he move this SCV out. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous maneuver. It's very easy to just go and build a factory in the main base and think, okay, yeah, I'm done with it. There we go. But Flash is taking that little extra opportunity and then does something that I think is another delightful instance to showcase really, I think, how good he is at this sort of thing. He gets a sense of how many Hellions are out on the map from his opponent. Gets a sense of that his opponent is also going for Hellions. No blue flame yet, as we can either click on and see or notice the factory count. Flash is continuing to apply a little pressure, continue to just send us Hellions to the front, no big deal. And initiative is not necessarily part of a build order. Flash sent this SCV here originally to build, but when he walked in here, saw the number of SCVs, saw that there had been yet no transition that he could clearly discern from, but did see 2 factories. It's very easy right now to say, maybe he's gonna out-Hellion me. And that is okay to do that very simple analysis and go, no, I don't really think I have the initiative right now. And there's the command center on the high ground. Flash had originally planned this SCV to build here and change the plan upon seeing these two factories. Not a moment sooner than this. And you'll notice that Flash also immediately abandons his plan of flooding with Hellion and goes straight into an excess production of siege tanks. Or not excess production, but just the regular good old production of siege tanks. He is preparing for the time at which he is going to abandon the initiative. Right now, I would very much so argue that he is still in rather good shape on that front. Medevac moving up. Second factory coming up. If Flash is consistent, he will be getting an add-on of a tech lab and not a factory, as he is someone who is preparing to abandon initiative. He is slowly abandoning it right now and saying, nope, I'm just going to beef up on the defense on the siege tanks, and that's what will justify now sacrificing these Hellions. Normally these Hellions would be needed to maintain control of the ball, to maintain map control and that sort of thing, and Flash is only just now willing to sacrifice them. He killed off 12 workers, but we're starting to see he's slowly losing map control. His Hellion count is slowly beginning to dwindle, but his tank count is what is beginning to climb right on up. Vikings, which are a very defensive unit, they're not going to be used to do little Viking land drops in the back of the base. They're used to reinforce and benefit the siege tanks. And you can actually see timing-wise why this command center going on in the main was smart, given this transition to siege tanks, this abandoning of initiative. Only right around the time that this command center finishes as an orbital and moves here, only then is that when we really have a reasonable enough amount of siege tanks. I mean, imagine this command center being here already. We have 2 siege tanks. This buys us just enough time to get around 4 siege tanks. So fantastic. Absolutely no more control of the map. No real big, scary initiative. He does not have the ball any longer. Flash is avoiding armies with his containing Hellions. He's scouting for possible attack angles. He's building more of a defensive unit, siege tank, more of a defensive unit, Vikings, to prepare for his opponent to do this sort of thing. Although this is just a really nice pickup, having killed that off. Oh, it's Tristan and Dog. Hello, Tristan and Dog. They were on a walk. They just came back. So Flash, once again, these Hellions that are normally so excellent in map control circumstances, now going to be used to do a little bit of dropping stuffs. Hellbats for Flash with the siege tanks popping up around. Drop at the backside. No such map control being emphasized by Flash. He is purely exploiting the fact that he sees this. This is a very different kind of play that we're seeing from Flash. I want you to look at this, at this shape of Flash's stuffs. He has very immobile units, Hellbats that are slow, siege tanks that are largely sieged, Vikings that can't do much without the siege tanks. In the main base, we have factories emphasizing gas production with the tanks, emphasizing Viking production at the starport. Only one of these factories building things. Contrast this with Flash around the 9-minute mark. Or I suppose, no, I said 9-minute mark. Come on, 9-minute mark. Contrast with around the 9-minute mark, yeah. At this point in time, we see Flash producing lots of Hellions, moving units along the map. Look at all this motion, this freedom to just be out on the map. We see this SCV that was gearing up to expand there. This is a visual distinction between when we do and don't have the ball, when we do and don't have that sort of initiative. When you do have the ball, you tend to be right up in your opponent's base. You're like right here with your army and like right here with a drop and maybe there with another drop, kind of wiggling in and trying to poke. Maybe you get to scout for expansions. And when you abandon that, you have much more of this look. Not a lot of vision on the minimap. counter-attacking as opposed to attacking. And of course we see the opposite from Bbyong. Bbyong is moving out for just a regular old attack. Scans going down on all sides to monitor. Very cool. Scans not being spent on mules. That's something that we would normally point out during that time where the ball is present with Flash. If you do have the ball and you're doing good control and good contain, you don't need as much scan. You can go mules. Very nice little harass from Flash. His kill of 27 SCVs. Wonderful. And I think in perhaps a very telling move, Flash is accepting his passive position by throwing down an extra tech lab here so that he can increase his tank production. If we look back over at this side, this is a pretty standard formation. You can get another factory for Hellbats if you'd like to be aggressive. So in this very moment, we would ask ourselves, what's coming up? If I'm Flash, here is my thought process. I expanded earlier than you did. Right around now, my economy is actually going to be kicking in. So, for Flash, right around now is when he should begin to be getting a lead of units on his enemy. Obviously, we've killed off some SCVs and stuff, but right around now is when Flash should start to get a little bit of lead in that army supply. And that will be Flash's time to move out. So I'm going into a lot of detail with the explanation, but the concept's still pretty simple. I'm getting an expansion now, and he is not. I gotta prepare for defense. Oh, he's getting an expansion now, and I've been defending for a while. Time to group up and attack. Because I have more units, I have the initiative.
Base is under attack.
So in fact, this tech lab is, I think, on this factory, technically might look confusing. It's easy to go, wait a minute, if he's getting a tech lab, he's going to be doing that defensive siege tank focused thing. Here's the way to look at this. In the now, Flash has 4 factories to his opponent's 3. These 4 factories are what are going to allow Flash to apply pressure. The fact that this is a tech lab is Flash already preparing for when he loses the initiative. And we'll see that unfold very quickly here. So as we go back to the Flash cam, SCV's doing gentle little harasses, nothing terrifically dramatic. Little harasses from Bbyong. And now we see Bbyong, I mean, he's really exceptional with being able to read this, starting to go, geez, man, I do not think I actually have enough stuff. So he pulls back. So this is a moment where I would say it's very easy as an inexperienced player to go, well, how the hell does Flash know to move out? He doesn't know how many units Bbyong have. He doesn't know where the units that Bbyong has. He has no freaking clue. Well, he knows the most important thing of all, which is that Bbyong's expansion was later. That's all that Flash needs to know. He's gathering some forces together, he's building some siege tanks, building some stuff. And right at the time when he has initiative, we see a command center going down. On this bottom side, we're seeing units moving out on the map. We're seeing a force moving out on the map. We're seeing a scan, just to make sure he doesn't run into tank lines. Everything I'm saying, never forget the fact that you can easily throw away a lead by running your tanks into siege tanks. I mean, we see this sort of Hellbat drop, which I would say it's easy to get discouraged by things like that, but this is what makes Flash an excellent player. He's not quietly, passively making a command center here because he doesn't want to run the risk of losing 1 SCV. Overall, this command center's only lost about 10 seconds of construction time, which makes it still a worthwhile play to do this. The only way that this is not a worthwhile play for Flash is if the command center gets actually killed off. So we see Flash continuing to know this. I talked about this concept beforehand. When you have the ball, you take opportunities, but you don't force them. A taken opportunity right here. Flash is preparing for his later stage in the game. He's able to move this army around very freely. Hasn't done anything like amazingly crazy, but here it is. It's going to march right on out into pure darkness with a last-second scan, because that is the confidence that Flash can operate with to be able to set up missile turrets and move across like this. Now, if this is not a clear-ass initiative play, I don't know what is. The ability to move forward, to siege up, to build missile turrets right there, to have taken a fourth. Now, what I would say that I typically see here in a sort of high-level Terran versus Terran, very typically what I see is a Terran player in Flash's position add on more factories to get bigger armies, and then once Bbyong inevitably breaks through, have a big enough army to deal with it and to keep expanding, and the games can stale out a bit from there. Or they can become just sort of crazy and it's just like a rally mess. When we come back, we're going to see Flash have an entirely different set of planning that I think is perhaps the greatest showcase in this game of how smartly Flash uses the initiative he has to perform big plays. So stay tuned. Think about what you would do in this spot. And then just come back and appreciate Flash and be like, damn, he's good. On a break.